Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
good
I'm
morning.
getting nods, so I guess I'm on.
Yes.
So I better be careful. Hello, I'm Nancy McCarthy, and we have Councilor Robin Risley here today. Thank you for joining us on this kind of unspring-like weather, unfortunately, but it'll turn. So we have quite a few people today. I'm glad to see you all. We have a couple of new people, new to this particular format, not new to us. So let's go around the bend, I guess you could say, and I'll ask you what you want to talk about, and then we'll come back and start talking. So Jenny, you're first. What would you like to talk about?
I guess I'm curious what's going to happen with 4th of July this year. I know the Legion didn't want to put on the parade because of insurance reasons. Is there any talk of somebody else taking it over? Any plans the city has?
Okay, well, we will talk about that. Dale, what would you like to talk about?
Nothing too major on my mind. The one thing I was thinking about was, we heard a lot of input from the local businesses and especially restaurants due to COVID and saying how much they'd been hit by that. And I'm just wondering, now we have, the mask restriction, and I think there's the no more density restriction. I'm just curious if the city will be getting any feedback down the road a bit from businesses to say, how do things compare, now and a month from now or 2 months from now with a pre-pandemic situations. I'm just curious to know if the city will find out anything about that.
So are you asking if the city is doing a kind of a survey on what the businesses are doing regarding the quote unquote post-pandemic for the next couple of weeks?
Well, not so much the next couple of weeks, but a month from now, 2 months from now, and so on. Are we gonna? I don't know if Cannon Beach surveys this businesses in any way, or if all the feed. We heard a lot in the news about how devastating this was to businesses, but will we hear? Has there been a recovery, or is business still down, or is it just back to just pre-pandemic levels? I'm just curious if that'll happen and if the city will even find out.
Okay, all right. Is that Cindy?
Yeah.
Cindy, are you there? What would you like to talk about?
Hi, similar to what Dale was saying, but what I am wondering is if the emergency orders are coming to an end and kind of where that leaves us with things such as our outdoor parking, the outdoor dining in the parking areas that were allowed because of the restrictions. So that's kind of one area that I'm wondering what's going to happen with, or if it's going to be talked about with the city councilors at some point. And then the other question I have is just kind of how it works. I know there's a transportation meeting. There's one in the morning and one in the evening. And if you could explain kind of what the difference between the two meetings are.
Okay, all right. Mary Beth, what would you like to talk about? Welcome. This is the first time I think you've done this, isn't it?
It is, and the only reason I can do it is because I'm on vacation this week.
Oh, okay. I wondered.
Spend my vacation morning with you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to hear a little bit about what goes on at these meetings and ask if it would be possible to maybe move it a little bit earlier so that people who work starting at 10 o'clock can attend.
Okay, all right. Did you have any particular question in mind?
I'm just wondering how things are going with the code audit.
Okay.
And also the tree code.
What?
Tree code.
Okay. All right. Okay, Deb, what would you like to talk about today?
I just had a question about the Roberts property. That's just a quick one. And then something I heard on NPR about communication that I thought was valuable. So is that Rick Gray? Hi, Rick.
Yes, it is.
I liked your letter to the editor, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. I haven't seen it yet.
And also it was Bruce St. Dennis's birthday yesterday, so maybe we can all sing happy birthday and embarrass him.
Oh,
I'm good.
Embarrass ourselves.
I'm good, but thank you for the sentiment.
I'll
happy
sing for
birthday.
you.
I'm tomorrow, Bruce, so, well, happy birthday to you.
Oh.
All right.
Wow.
All the spring
It's
days.
in March. Mine was on the 3rd of March.
Happy birthday.
Hi, Nancy. What would you like to talk about?
I'm a couple things I'm curious about. One is I'm curious to know if the city or someone has started working with the restaurant owners to help them get the equipment they need and give them the training they need for their new point of sales systems. And then the other thing is I've been gone for a few weeks and I want to just catch up with what's been going on.
Okay, well, I want to say you missed a lot, but it just keeps going on. So you'll
Thanks,
catch
Steph.
up. Don't worry. Ken, what would you like to talk about? Is this your first time here?
It is.
Whoa.
You're too close to Mary Beth.
Just beamed down.
Yeah. I think you have some electronics near your computer.
I'm going to use Mary Beth's microphone. And again, I'm on vacation as well, which is the only reason I can be here. But I'm here largely to listen, see what's going on this particular platform.
Okay,
See everyone.
good. Betty, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I'm still concerned about the Taft Street situation, but other than that, I just want to listen. Thank you.
When you say the Taft Street situation, are you talking about the two houses with the,
It's three
asphalt?
it's three houses.
okay,
Now, it used to be just one, and then all of a sudden it's getting to be, maybe the whole street will turn into a parking lot. I don't know.
okay. Eric, what would you like to talk about?
Oh, hey, I had a parking comment or question about there's a vehicle that parks that's part of the van pool for the city, I believe, the Subaru that parks in front of the city hall in what I believe is public parking, but it's there 24/7, taking up a spot that tourists could use or people visiting town could use. Especially since we're coming into the summer. And then I wanted to second Betty's comment about the parking on Taft. We did call yesterday about it, and it's the cars that were there this weekend were the owners of one of the houses there. So there was 7 cars total parked at one house. But yeah, I'm kind of curious about how that's gonna get resolved in that area, or where we stand on parking along Taft and that giant gravel area now that they've created.
All right, Lynn, what would you like to talk about? Lynn? Lynn, are you still in Texas? Is it that far away?
Yes, it's that far away. We're in the middle of a dirt storm. The skies are red for the second week, and we're ready to be in Cannon Beach, and we'll be very soon. We're just trying to keep up with what's going on while we're gone.
Okay. Well, so you're just trying to keep up. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to do sometimes.
That's true.
Always.
You think you have it bad. Wait until you get on the council. All right, Jan, what would you like to talk about? We have 2 people in our audience today. We have Rick Gray and we have Jan Siebert Warman. So is it Warman, Siebert? Siebert Warman.
Siebert Warm.
Siebert Warman. So
I
we
wanted,
actually have some people in person today. Yay.
yeah, I wanted to talk about the First Street Bridge project.
Okay.
And it was first said to be a retrofit, and now I've heard it's going to be a replacement of the whole bridge for the application for grant with, I guess it's with FEMA.
All right. Jan said, if you didn't hear her, Jan said she wants to talk about the First Street Bridge project. we've been talking about refurbishing it, and now possibly we might get a grant to replace it. So that's in the works and not anywhere near fruition yet. So we'll see. And Rick, what would you like to talk about?
I really came to listen, just learning more things about my town.
Okay.
I mean, if you're really desperate for ideas, I always.
I think we have plenty to keep
I
us
think we
going.
probably
Yeah.
do.
At first, I was telling Robin, because we didn't have many people coming in at the beginning, and I told Robin, I said, I think this is gonna be a real short conversation today, but we may not have a short
I will say
conversation.
one thing about the parking,
Uh-huh.
about the parking problems and stuff like that. I read the most interesting thing this week I think it was in The Guardian, about how, it might have been the Times, about how New York City has now got a program where if you have people sitting in a truck and running the motor for more than 3 minutes, you get fined $350. But the program now is that if you turn somebody in, if you record it and turn them in, you get a quarter of the fine. And there are people who do this for a living. There's a guy that did like $60,000 last year. I'm not recommending.
Yeah.
I'm not talking particularly about running
Goes
motors.
from that,
but,
yeah.
you know, some kind of ability for citizens to report parking problems, maybe by texting a picture and stuff like that, and sending it directly to a particular location might not be a bad idea for just sort of alerting. The police don't have time to be running all over the city and enforcing these things, but if they know there's a problem, they could go get it.
Okay, let's, it seems to me the main question, although it's hard to know, the main question here was what the update is on the prepared food tax, whether restaurant owners are getting any help, what the situation is for the restaurants, and whether the or emergency ordinance is ending, and if that means the end of outdoor dining. Bruce, you want to take that one up first?
Sure. First, as far as the assistance to the restaurants for their point of sale systems, we hired a person from Astoria Tech Help, and she has contacted each one of the restaurants and has offered, we asked her to do an evaluation of all the restaurants to determine how much it would cost to bring them up to be able to use their point of sale systems. And all those folks have been contacted. A lot of them had already taken care of it. Many of them had already hit their current systems were able to be upgraded just by their vendor. And so we're down to, I think, 5, the likelihood that we'll have 5 applications for assistance. The rest of the, however many, appear to be operational. And we will bring back a recommendation as far as how the grant program should be operating to the council at the April 5th meeting. And so I think that folks will get a pretty high level of assistance, the folks that apply and the folks that need that sort of help. And Nancy, there was about a 6-part question. What was that first?
That was one of them. What about the emergency ordinance that has been kind of governing us since the COVID?
And Cindy, what we're doing with that is that we will have a discussion. I think it's on the 5th or maybe the 12th, but staff recommendation is that we keep those accommodations in place for one more season. We don't know what's going to happen. We're all happy we're not wearing masks now. And in the interest of helping restaurants recover some of the losses that they've had, from a staff standpoint, we don't intend to recommend that those change until sometime, if they change at all, sometime after Labor Day. I will say that if there are places that are interested in doing, trying to maintain that longer term, that they get involved early by, talking to councilors, sending letters or whatever, because the existing code does not allow those sorts of things. And we are modifying the code as a result of COVID. And so those will come to an end, but we're recommending they don't come to an end until after Labor Day. And then it'll be up to the residents and the council as to, do we want to make those kind of changes? So you'll be good to go till probably, I'm sorry, it's still a council decision, but the recommendation is that you'll be good to go until beginning of September.
Okay, thank you. That is great news because, for example, some of us need to replace some of our tables just due to the rust and whatnot. Am I okay to make a comment or ask another question back on the prepared food tax?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so on that application, so I did send in some information, for example, on some of the costs that we've already incurred. But then I was told that there would be, in the future, there would be more information forthcoming. So there may be, so I don't even know if my information counts as one of the applications. I was under the impression that I actually haven't submitted an application for any of the grant money. So you may want to kind of clarify with the businesses to make sure that all of us have turned in an application, because I'm not, like I said, I sent initial information, then I was told that an application and stuff would be forthcoming later, which I have not actually filled out, I don't believe.
Yeah, and Cindy, I believe you are one of the 5. And there is no application yet because the city has to adopt the parameters for the program. And once we do that, then the applications will be available.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I thought that I had heard that the applications were already out there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. And then I will also write a letter, I guess the best way is to the council people about what our wish would be if we decide we want to permanently keep seating outside, but we absolutely hope and love the idea of having it for this season. And I can give you the feedback that our customers, you know, a good portion of them are still wearing masks. A good portion of them want to maintain social distancing. We see that when they're standing in line, waiting to order. We also see it in our seating that they're thanking us all the time for not putting all of our tables and chairs back inside. It's kind of a pain when we have a spring break with the weather like we have now. But, you know, we are trying to cater to both our employees and our customers and make sure that, you know, they feel safe. Thank you.
Bruce, do you have any idea when the applications, I mean, I know that this is a floating schedule because this council hasn't discussed it yet, but do you have any projection as to when you'd like to get the applications for the grants out to the restaurants?
I don't know if an application is going to be necessary because we have Holland Herbert out there and she's giving us a report on each business. And so that may be enough information for us to say, because that may be enough information. I'm not sure. But if the meeting is on the 5th, we should have applications out by probably the 8th or the 9th.
Of April.
Of April, yes.
Okay. All right. So stay tuned and you'll stay in contact with the restaurants, let them know what the situation is, right?
Yes. Yeah. Holland has been our contact so far because she's the information person, but we will be reaching out to all of the businesses. And I think Rick had a question.
Okay.
Well, I just had a thought about as we're making the transition into collecting the tax. I remember during the controversy, one of the things that struck me as a really good argument for the anti-side was the concern that servers, baristas and so forth would have to explain the tax to people. And I know that would only take a while, but we have a lot of people who come here for the first time. They might be surprised by this stuff. I wonder if any thought has been given to perhaps having some kind of signage or like welcome, candidates, thank you for contributing to, maintaining our rescue services, things like that, that maybe we could have something like that where the people will see as they come into town and, so it won't be a surprise when they get the check. It'll just be like, oh yeah, I'm helping out.
That's possible. I think that businesses and even the hotels would probably, they put out enough information for every visitor.
Oh, sure.
And then, if they have a card on the table, if they were to ask, we would provide something like that. I'm not sure that they will, again, I don't know, but.
I'm just thinking that if
Yeah.
there were some kind of a little conclave to come up with a consistent, very brief message, that way people would see it again and again, and they quickly kind of they'd pick it up, as opposed to everybody doing their own separate thing.
Okay, Mary Beth, you have a question?
I do, and it's just kind of a clarification. It sounds like the tech person that you've hired is to help people set up a system, POS system, but is that required for this?
No. Holland's work for the city is only to do the review and tell us how much it would cost in each situation to bring the business up to speed, to be able to collect or to have a system that will help them sort out the PFT. So there's no reason that they can't hire her. That's her background, but we are not hiring Holland to do that work. But if a business says, I need $1,000 worth of work or something, if they want to hire her separately, that's fine with us, because she will have done a lot of the research.
Yeah, I guess my question is, do you need to have a POS system to comply with the prepared food tax? I'm specifically thinking of, say, Lazy Susan that has no POS system, but they have always done everything by hand. They should be able to continue to do things by hand and just generate the report by hand, shouldn't they?
Yes, and that's going to be the solution. Holland is working with their accountant because they do want to stay with the cash only system. And so they're developing a solution that will allow them to accommodate that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted that clarification because it didn't sound that way.
No, yeah. I mean, I went and met with them, and Holland's met with them, at least on a couple occasions, because we're trying to go ahead and sort out everybody's individual needs.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let's take on the Taft Street situation. We had a couple of questions about the place becoming a parking lot and also an accumulation of cars there on Taft Street. I know we had that discussion last month. Any update on that, do you know?
Well, the update is that we match the road, the right of way, with the road requirements, and Taft has a particularly wide right of way. And so it is available for parking. And when the houses or whatever was built, the space between the edge of their property and the road was put in, I think it was some sort of a gravel or something. And so that is what's atypical about Taft is the width of the right of way in that location.
Did you name it Taft because it was extra wide?
No, it was somebody may have done that a long time ago.
So is there any solution to the accumulation of the cars that are being parked there? 7 cars in front of one house?
I will talk to Jason about it, but if they are parked legally, then there is not.
I did have a question about parking, like on that right of way. So along Taft, parking on the south side of the road is it's a no parking zone. Shouldn't that right of way be considered part of that, as it's part of the road, as part of the road right of way, and you're not allowed to park on the south side of the road? I was just looking for clarification on that the other day, and I couldn't find it in the city code.
I'm not sure, Eric, but I will check that, because I know that's in different situations, parking's one side or the other. And I don't know if there was any exception or whatever made for that. I don't recall any discussion at the council level or staff level to say, well, let's go ahead and change it in that location. So I'll follow up on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and the residents at the third house in, they've put up no parking signs on it, and then they park in front of it. So I'm just not sure what the legality and where they're standing. Because I mean, like I said, there were 7 vehicles parked there, and it was the owners. So it's not like there's the restriction on vacation renters. They're only allowed to have a certain number of houses or a certain number of cars per off-street parking. But with the homeowner living there and being the one with the cars, there's a difference in what they're allowed to do. But I just saw that over this weekend, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So we called Beachcomber to see, and it was the homeowner that was parked there, not a renter.
Okay, and as far as the people putting up no parking signs, they don't. People do not have a right to say that no one can park in the right of way in front of their house, and so we deal with that a lot. And what's interesting is that what the rub is there is that people don't want cars to park in front of their house, and that's understandable. But people are, clamoring, we need more parking. And so if we were to, and again, this is strictly a council decision, if people can claim that property, which anyway, if they were to claim that, then that is I think that's just a code issue, that they can do that. But if they do, we have to be consistent. And there has to be criteria why I can do it in front of my house, but Eric can't do it in front of his house. So, and also the code says, the part of the right of way has to be open and maintained, but is available for parking.
Yeah.
So it's
and there's the confusion on Taft with the south side of the road being the no parking side, but then the right of way being able to park in it. So where does the right of way start and end, and where's the parking begin and end on that side of the road?
Eric, that's a great question. I don't know, and I'd not heard that before, but we'll check it out.
Okay, cool.
It seems to me if there's a city sign that says no parking, that means no parking, whether it's a right of way or not.
And there is a couple signs on that road for no parking that side.
And they are city signs, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll check it out.
Betty,
Well-
did you want to say something?
Well, I just feel like it's a bad precedent. If you're coming onto Taft, I feel sorry for Eric because they just bought that house and now their view is this huge gravel lot that's super ugly. And I'm really into Cannon Beach not turning into a parking lot. And I just don't think that, I think that those homeowners have taken advantage of the situation unless the city actually put all that gravel there for a reason. I don't know. But there's a new house across the street from Eric also that was just sold, and I'm afraid they're going to do the same thing. I think that whole street will just turn into a gravel parking lot. So that's my fear.
I hope they don't take out all that nice landscaping. They just, the people that sold the house spent so much time over the last 3 months leading up to the sale working on that landscaping. So I hope they don't get rid of it.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Okay, well, Bruce, you'll look into that.
Yes.
Give us an update next month. Okay,
I'll get with you as soon as I get my answer.
good. How about the Subaru question? Eric wanted to know about the Subaru parked in
The Subaru is a city car and it's used by finance, which is on this end of the building. And it has to park somewhere. It's in the past, it's been parked out on the street, taking up a parking place out there. If it takes up a parking place in the back, somebody else ends up parking out on the street. So one way or another, there's going to be an impact from a parking standpoint. So now we're keeping it, it's a city car and we're keeping it on city property.
Okay.
Which is where it is, right?
Which is where it is, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you go in the back and you look at all the police cars, staff cars, HRAP cars, everything else, that is extremely cluttered. And anything that we put back there just displaces one of those cars to the street.
All right, let's talk about the First Street Bridge. What is the status of that?
The staff has initiated a contract with Civil West. Well, first of all, we've been pretty lucky so far going for grants and very favorable loan conditions. And, but what's happening is that there's a lot of requirements once you get that grant or loan to comply with federal requirements, because they're usually related to federal. And so we rapidly hit our max as far as how many contracts we can manage. But we still want to take advantage of the environment right now, which is very favorable in terms of loans and grants with all the money coming out of the federal government. So we want to try to go ahead and take advantage of that situation. So we're starting to hire engineering companies to do applications for us for grants. And so Civil West is doing a grant application for the replacement of the First Street Bridge. And there are several categories that grant could potentially come from. But that is the effort right now to try to improve that situation. We're also looking at a bunch of other grant opportunities. And we're working with an organization called CREST, which is the Columbia River Estuary Program. And they are grant experts. And so we will be working with them on various things because that's what they do. And
when I talked to you earlier at one of our meetings, you were talking about the bridge being retrofitted, not replaced. And you were quite clear that that was what you said. And then the other night, it was mentioned that it's a replacement. What jumped it from one to the other?
Robin, I'm sorry if I think I am confused on it. What we're hoping.
Retrofitting is keeping the bridge very similar to what it is now. Replacements, like taking it out and redoing it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's much confusion over what one means and the other means.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that, but I'm not sure how much benefit we get if the bridge stays at the same elevation, but stronger, because once the water hits it, it's not gonna, anybody that's on it is in a bad situation. So I made
you said was for replacement.
Okay. And I made an assumption on that because that's how you improve the situation, and I will clarify it. But for the situation to become truly better and allow a longer evacuation time, it would have to be higher. But maybe it's just that, because we did the underside of the bridge and there has been some strengthening on that, but the top is not likely to survive it. But I will find out, but I don't know how much improvement we get again in that situation.
Who has the authority for the bridge? Would it be ODOT or the city?
City. Apparently, and Robin, I'm going on my memory because I think at some point when 101 was built or something, that somehow the city said, okay, we'll accept that because now it became a local street.
Yeah, I remember when there was a decision about that, but I wanted clarification.
I'll clarify.
Karen just came in. She can probably answer that question.
So right now, the engineering.
You want to come up closer so that everybody can hear you?
Right now, the engineering firm is pursuing a FEMA grant. There's two grants that they're chasing, one through FEMA, one through emergency management. I think it's called the BRIC, B-R-I-C grant. And what those funds will help us do is to take the existing evaluation that was done a number of years ago on the bridge and then add to that from an emergency management perspective. Does it make sense to truly retrofit the bridge, or does it require replacement? And so that is the evaluation that needs to really be done, picking up where that last evaluation left off. And Bruce was absolutely right. They already know that the surface of the bridge needs to be addressed. When ODOT does their annual inspections each year, they've identified that as starting to need some maintenance on that, whereas before our bridge was really in pretty good shape. It was aging really well. They stabilized those underlings, many years ago when they first chased this. But if you recall, that first attempt was a very expensive ask,
Yeah.
and we didn't get that. So what they did was they did what they could on the bridge at that time. That engineer is still around today that did all that drafting and drawing up for the city. And so they're going to pick up from that point and go forward and say, where are we now? Because it's been a number of years. So they'll do a true evaluation to say, do we retrofit it and try to address the bridge surface? Or do we look at replacing it? And so, and again, when you talk about replacing, as you know, around Oregon, they've built a lot of new bridges that look old. And so they can make it cosmetically attractive to what our town has or what that bridge originally looks like. But we're not there yet. We just have to do the evaluation to see if it really calls for a replacement or if we can replace the surface of the bridge and maintain it.
You know when that evaluation will be done?
I don't. First, we get the money. That's the first ask is, will they give us the funds to finish that evaluation? So that's the first step. And then if we get funds from both of those or one or the other, then we'll move forward based on that. Okay.
So this sounds like a project that's pretty extensive.
It is.
Down the road,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're talking a couple years out. I think we may have something over the next year if we get funds, but that's just a rough estimate.
Yeah, I remember when they were first talking about the First Street Bridge, was probably about 10 years ago or more. And they were talking about whether or not, I think this was the emergency committee that they had at the time. And they talked about whether or not they should have it replaced so that it would withstand first the earthquake and then the tsunami. And they decided, which I still don't understand, they decided that they would like to replace it so that it would withstand the earthquake and have 15 minutes to get across the bridge and then it would collapse during the tsunami. And I think at that time, the ask was $3 million.
Yeah, we have all that paperwork and we've actually had to put that in the grant ask, is to say, this is what we did years ago. This is where we were at that time. It was denied. Here's where we feel we are today. And this is what we're asking for, is to complete that evaluation.
Yeah. Okay. And you have had work done on the underpinnings.
They did.
In the last few years.
Stabilize those underlings. We had 2 engineering firms come out and some bridge experts come out, take a look at that and just do a site, nothing deep dive, but just do a site inspection. They see bridges every day, multiple types of bridges. And they said it's in pretty good condition for its age, but the surface of it is what's starting to need some attention.
Right. Jan, you had a question?
Yeah, well, I remember back when they were looking at the bridge years ago, and one of the concerns was from the community that what would be replaced, it would be replaced with a huge bridge.
They were talking about the width. Yeah, that they wanted to know whether it was going to be like a 2-lane each side or something like, or maybe 3-lane instead, 2 lanes and 1 lane coming. Because of the number of people they expected to go over that bridge during a tsunami. And they didn't think they could get.
And I'm not a bridge expert, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And I think that's what this evaluation will try to give the city all the options that they can consider and different avenues.
But yeah, it was going to be, one of the discussion points was
the real
the width was
make
going to
sure
be.
we're not separated from the north end.
Yeah.
And address that.
Yeah.
Can I digress back on Taft for a second?
Sure.
So when homes are built, as you guys know, the homeowner is responsible for completing the entrance to their property as the road standards address. Taft has a very wide right-of-way. It's a 50-foot right-of-way. And so because it's a gravel street, you have the width of the street, then you add your right-of-way. That's why visually everybody feels that that's become a parking lot because it does appear to be quite wide. Not all of our right-of-ways are 50 foot, but in that area they happen to be. And because we have a lot of short-term rentals on that street, there happens to be a lot of parking. It's also close to downtown, so people will park there and walk down the hill. As far as the gravel and whatnot on the corner, when the home was being built, there was a lot of, the city has infrastructure that flows behind the property on the corner that everybody refers to as the Purple House and the new house that was being built. We wanted to improve those drains through there while we had a chance to do so before that house was finished. So the city did that. That meanders out towards the hemlock in that right of way. So we don't want to plant trees and things there because our big storm drain goes through there. And so there will be some landscaping that happens there. Trevor's already talked to the folks that have the house on the corner and their landscape, and we want to coordinate. So when they're doing their yard, we finish off that corner, and it's more than just a gravel spot. We put the gravel to control the mud over the winter time. So it's kind of a phase. We're getting there, but it's not going to look the way it looks right now.
And Eric, did you want to talk to Karen at all about your concerns on Taft?
No, it was my biggest like concern and or gripe is just that the south, you're not supposed to, there's signs for no parking along the south side of that street, but the right of way is 50 feet wide, like Karen mentioned. So they've got an extensive amount of real estate that's open for parking with the signs for no parking on that side of the road, and then residents that have put up no parking signs along their fences. So it's become this weird, like, nobody can park here but me, but it's still public property, but nobody's really supposed to park on that side of the road situation. And it's not and none of it's being enforced either way. And I imagine it's just because of the confusion of there's signs saying one thing, signs saying another, and then a giant area that looks available for parking, despite it being signage saying that it's not available for parking.
We did improve the signage, I think last year when this came up, and one side of that street is, I think it's the south side, that is no parking, just like all the other presidential streets. And so no parking on that side of the street means no parking on that side of the street.
Okay, so that does include the easement that has been gravelled in, that's not part of their property, but is part of the public right of way then, correct?
Yeah, when it says no parking this side of the street, that includes everything, city right of way and everything.
Okay, so the 7 cars in front of that house were all illegally parked then over the weekend?
Yeah, and so that becomes, and we talk about this in Jeff's plan review every Friday. The police department, public works, planning is all in that session. And we talk about areas where we're getting complaints about parking. But if one side of the street is designated as no parking, that means in the city right away or otherwise. If they're on somebody's private property in their driveway, of course, but that means on the city's right away, there's no parking. But there's parking on the other side of Taft that has a right of way. Okay. So there is parking on that street. If the signs are out there, they're clearly legible. We've played with the positioning of that while the house was under construction on the corner. I think we finally got it nailed down. The member aware of it is spring break. I will just tell you that over the weekend, I got numerous calls about people being parked in places they shouldn't be parked. And we work with the PD to try to navigate that. And those vehicles are being cited. So the PD.
Okay. I do have a slightly separate question that's in regards to Hemlock between Harrison and Gower. The cars parking and blocking the bike lanes and just parking in the middle of Hemlock there. Is there has that been a point of discussion that's come up with in your meetings with Jason and the everyone else about getting additional signage or more clear signage that you're not allowed to park and block bike lanes, and maybe painting in the bike lanes of like little bicycle symbol or something.
I think the bike lane issue is going to be addressed in Jeff's TSP efforts, because there's a lot in there about us creating alternative forms of transportation. So I think you'll see maybe some markings or some designations that are more clear relative to bike lanes. And I don't want to jump ahead in what's going on in the project, because there hasn't been decisions made by the city leadership or council regarding what we're going to do in that. But there is a large part of that project that talks about alternative transportation, advocating other than vehicles. But in the interim, I'll go look at the signage on that street and see if there's something that needs to be better positioned to address that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it says no parking in this block, and then right in front of that sign, the red or yellow curb for the fire lane starts. And so people typically just park right in front of the no parking in this block sign and then go in to go get coffee or something, but they stop just before that fire lane. So they think they're fine because the fire lane ends, but they're still in a bike lane in traffic in front of a no parking sign.
Yep. It's just a balance between code enforcement, the PD citing, and us getting the signs positioned where people actually see them and read them.
Yeah, and making sure they're clear enough for the dumbest of people out there to be able to understand.
Yeah, I had $1 for every time I saw somebody at the what I call the photo site up on Hemlock, where they take the picture of the rock before it goes down Pacific. I have numerous no parking signs there, and all day, every night, every morning, coming and going, I see cars there. So
oh yeah,
people don't always abide by the signs. We keep putting them up, but that doesn't make them read them more.
Yeah. Nobody reads anymore.
Okay. Hopefully that helps you on the bridge.
Thank you very much.
Posted. Bruce will be bringing this to council when we get somewhere with these loan asks or the grant asks. These are not loans, they're grants.
Okay, that's good. Great. Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Karen.
All right. We have a question about, let's see. I want to talk about the TSP, because we have an open house scheduled this week. Can you talk about the transportation study project?
Yeah, we're quite a ways down the road on the project. I think that the question was about the daytime versus evening meetings, and it's the same material. It's just opportunities for people to participate.
Do you know what time the morning one is? I wasn't aware of the morning one.
I don't, it might be daytime. I might be overshooting if I say morning, but I think Rusty is checking it on the website right now. 8:30, so it is morning.
That's the committee, right? That's talking, okay.
One's the committee and one's the.
One's the open house, yeah. Okay, that's where I was confused. So we have a transportation advisory committee, and they are meeting at 8:30 on Wednesday morning. And of course, that's open to the public, and it's Zoom, available by Zoom. So you can always go to that if you want to hear what the committee is doing. And then we have an open house that night at 6 o'clock, Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, also by Zoom. And I think in person too, right? We're doing in person as well. So you're all please come and join us. The city has a page on its website devoted exclusively to the transportation study. So take a look at that. And, prepare your questions and come and join us for that open house. Anybody have any questions about that? Oh, come on. Somebody's got to have a question. You guys are all quiet all of a sudden. All right. So if we don't have any more about that, Deb had a question about the Roberts property. Deb?
Yeah, did the Newberts sell that to the people who are to the Roberts? Did the Newberts sell it to the Roberts?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
No or yes?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
I've not seen the transaction, but that's never come up that somehow they had a business relationship,
okay, so they bought it from some other party.
apparently.
Okay, somebody was asking me and I didn't have the answer. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was NPR. I was listening to NPR on my way home the other day, and the mayor of Canby, Silverton, and Newburgh were on talking about how to build the community after the divisions that are occurring like in the rest of the world, but in Cannon Beach too. And they were talking about people having a space to have a voice. Like this meeting is really, really good. And a welcoming attitude. And what I'm finding within the city is there's certain segments of people that are in kind of, I hate to use the word cliques, but it seems in cliques of groups, and there's not a real welcoming into those groups. They're all adversary in some way, adversarial. And so I was trying to think of how to diffuse that and bring people together in common goals. So there isn't those type of divisions anymore, because like if you've lived here a long time, there's a certain people like that. And then there's people who, it's so for me moving here, there's certain things that aren't very welcoming, I find. And it's hard we're seeing people actually almost discriminate against people who are moving in versus the people who've lived here longer. So I'm just trying to find seeking solutions, because I'm used to real community and everywhere I live, and we all like really have a voice and have fun together and all those things. And I feel like that's lacking here, that there is no cohesive, and then the food tax didn't help. And then anyway, so I just was thinking that what they're doing is really cool. And they're having these meetings, whether they're quarterly or whatever, where they're trying to bring people together to seeking solutions and to heal the divisions. So that it was really progressive thinking, and I really liked it. So I thought, that might be a healthy thing for Cannon Beach.
Well, I think you're right in one respect, that this is a good meeting. This type of meeting that we're having every month is a good meeting to talk about situations. I know some of the people who have been pretty vocal lately have been invited to these meetings. I've sent out specific invitations to people to come to these meetings, and they haven't. I know that they know about them because they have marked various Facebook posts saying, they like the idea, but they haven't really appeared. So they are being invited, and they're perfectly welcome to come and ask questions and participate as much as they want. And I think they know that. So I think part of the problem is the city is moving pretty fast on a lot of projects. We have a lot of projects that we're juggling, and it's a city that's coping with some growing pains as well. So I think and the pandemic didn't help either. We're kind of separated in terms of, are we in our houses looking at Zoom, or are we coming into the city hall to talk face to face? So I think all of that has had an effect on our community. Eric, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that there's definitely seems to be a significant missing demographic out of people that attend this meeting. As you can see here, I'm currently at work making a bed. So to attend this meeting, and pretty much every single meeting that the city has, I have to kind of do this multitask thing, where I wander around holding my phone and I try to turn my camera off so I don't make everyone dizzy as I'm working. But all of these meetings take place while I'm at work. So you're missing a significant portion of the population that are right now working right now. So it's, you may be able to invite all 1,400 residents individually, personally, but there's 14 participants in here. So you got 13 plus 2 in there. So you have 15 people that are actually able to take time out of their day to attend this meeting.
Yeah, we might have to have wine with the counselors or something.
Yeah, like a happy hour.
We might have to think about doing that, extending it in the evening as well. Maybe one evening a week, or, like a 6 o'clock meeting, or maybe a pre-council gathering or something like that.
Well, Nancy, you communicate well. And, the thing is that all the people are in the business, like the city, like Bruce and all these people are so busy. Maybe they should just be left to doing their jobs and getting it done and having a liaison that could have these meetings. Because you're so busy, you're so busy all the time, and you need to do your jobs and not be sidetracked by so much stuff. So maybe a person who could just hear people's voices and bring it back to you too. So, because we don't want to overload you with more stuff. But I see a need for it, and more of a social thing. And I really do value this meeting and agree that an evening one might be a good situation.
Well, I still say I miss the potlucks that we used to have, the community potlucks that we used to have. And I think hopefully when we get past all of the pandemic situation, we can go back to something like those that did bring the community together. When we had the former mayor, John Williams, remember? John Williams used to have a potluck every month, and we'd have it either at the community church or at the chamber. And that brought in a lot of people, and that was a time for the city manager and for the mayor to answer questions about what was going on. And I think that really did give us a feeling of community that we miss now because of the pandemic. Robin, would you like to say anything more about that?
Well, and I think our Earth Day celebration that we have, I'm really looking forward to having everyone get together for those things too.
Yeah.
I think we're just starting to, and so don't give up. I think it's on its way.
Yeah.
And the new school, the school, when it's renovated, will be a big source, I think, too. That's a while out, I think, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, a couple of years. Nancy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes. I'd like to go back to the comment about perhaps Cannon Beach is a difficult place to get in among the people, and people aren't necessarily friendly. And Bob and I have found it to be absolutely the opposite. And that's one of the reasons we love living here. And I'm not saying everybody can volunteer, but we've gotten involved in many different volunteer organizations. And through those avenues, there was a ripple effect. Then we met friends of friends. And so the way we've gotten to know people is to just get out there. And I don't think we're ever going to have 100%. I mean, I know we won't ever have 100% compliance and agreement. So anyway, I'm just defending Cannon Beach. I think there are situations it's probably cliquish, but for the most part, we have felt extremely welcome.
Okay, we have one more question. Well, actually, we have the code audit. Somebody that Mary Beth wanted to know about the code audit. We just have a few more minutes. Can you tell us what the update is on the code audit?
Shoot the date. There's going to be a joint meeting of the Council, Planning Commission, and Design Review Board. Rusty's checking the date on it now. And that's when we'll start going into the next phase of the code audit. Pardon?
April 19th.
April 19th is the date for that meeting. Is it what time?
6.
It's 6 o'clock here in the council chamber. And that is when the council will start talking about, all right, now what are the next tasks we want to undertake? And there was discussion about a fast track and maybe what's the second track. That the second track, I think, is what will be discussed, and some prioritization will be done. So that's what I think is going on with the code audit.
So stay tuned for that.
If I can, that's one of the most important things the city has done in a very long time, because there are things, for example, when we talk about what's going on Taft Street, that's what the code says. And if we don't want that anymore, we need to make those kind of changes. And I think, yeah, that's why the code audit is important. So that's my comment on that.
Yeah,
Bruce, you had talked about who had been interviewed to talk to Earthworks about the code audit. And you said I had heard initially 10 people had been interviewed for over an hour each. Nancy and Mike had been interviewed. Who was the third one on city council? Do you know?
I've not gotten that information yet.
Okay, and then planning commission and design review were the other people that you had mentioned. And I guess I was surprised that not any of the residents had been asked to participate in that, because I think you're hearing it from people who are making decisions, but I think there's a whole other piece of who should be having that conversation.
Okay, Robin, the people that were let me see, that was requested by Marcy at Earthworks.
Mhm.
And she knew she was going to be working with the design review board, planning commission, and city council. And prior to the first meeting, she wanted to meet with people on that board to, talk about the process. And so that's why that was done. There was no the consideration for talking to the public at that time, because the first group she was going to meet with was the council, and the council represents folks. Now, throughout the rest of this process, it'll be very public input intensive. As we say, okay, now this is the thing we're going to look at next. That's when the public input and things like that will come in. She was just trying to gauge the climate that she was walking into. So that's why it was just board members.
it was just to get a baseline, I think, for the groups that she was working with. That was my impression when she talked to me. It wasn't.
And I need to talk to her because she was out of the town.
Right.
And I need to find out who it was she talked to on each group. And we've not gotten back together since she came back.
Okay.
I'll get that. But that's the reason why.
We have one more question. Ginny asked about the 4th of July parade.
Mhm.
Do we know what the situation is there?
We're starting to have discussion on that. I think it's on the April workshop. A lot will depend on what the residents want, what direction council provides. In the past, it was not a city function. And because of some of the, I don't know, maybe politics in the world today, the city cannot deny anybody access into the parade. A private organization can, but if they want to do some screening or something, they can. We cannot. And so that makes it a little bit harder. And I know that there's one person that's done a lot of the work in the past. When we were thinking about doing it last year, she'd indicated there was an interest on her part. I know that the conversation I had last with the Legion was they were not terribly thrilled in participating. What we did to make it easier for them is, they had to buy insurance. And so what the city did was, when they found out how much the insurance was going to be, we were going to do a grant to them for that cost. So there would not be any cost to them. And we have not, we just maybe a week or so got out of where we have to be everybody in masks. And so now we're just talking about what are we going to do with that situation? So it'll be brought up, and I don't have any answers that'll come from council. But I would recommend the council not be the sponsor, or the city not be the sponsor, which means somebody else has to be.
So if you know any private organizations that would step up to do that, let us know. I know the library is planning to do its 4th of July book sale. So, and that's a huge amount of work. We need volunteers desperately for that. So if we don't have a parade, we will still have a book sale. But we need a lot of volunteers for that. That's a 4-day event, and it takes a lot of volunteers to get it done. So if you're interested in that, please contact the library. So we will have a 4th of July library sale for the first time in 2 years, yay. And we have a lot of books, so.
Well, is there a way that the Legion would participate if they didn't have to be concerned about the insurance?
I don't know.
That's where we were last time.
Yeah.
And they thought that that was okay, but they still weren't enthusiastic. So
Oh,
if council,
That's a lot of work for Nancy Teagle.
yeah,
So,
she's up for it.
yeah.
yeah. And I think, yeah, and she wasn't enthusiastic. I think that there's some work involved for the Legion, and I don't know if they got anything back from it, was part of the concern.
I'd sure like to hear, more about what they're really feeling about it, because it does seem to be their wonderful project they've had
Yeah,
for years.
they do a great job. They do a
Right.
great job. Yeah.
Right.
We have Greg and Bob joined us a little bit later in the session. We're pretty much out of time, but I wanted to see if Greg or Bob had anything they wanted to say or comment on. And maybe not. You're muted. Aha.
Dr. Wayne.
Dr. Wayne.
No, I have nothing to say. I'm fascinated by the conversation.
Okay. It's a fascinating conversation. City business is always fascinating. Greg, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I was just kind of listening today, but I will echo Eric's comments. I am also multitasking and made 2 reservations while I've been listening on this call. But one thing I do like to bring up, just because it's a pet peeve of mine, and I don't know if the city or the police department is looking into it at all. If you look at ordinances about RVs, campers, trailers, they're supposed to park in the designated spots over by the sewer ponds, and I think there might be 1 or 2 more places in town. But the signage to let people know, I mean, there are a couple of places where it's clear. But it seems like more than ever, we're getting more, and by the ordinance, if you look it up, it basically says any vehicle that has hookup or connections like water or power makes it an RV, even though nowadays like Sprinter vans that are 18 feet high might have them, but they're Class C vehicles. And you can sit at the Driftwood and look over to Jeffrey Hall Gallery and not see it because you've got 18-foot vehicles parked on Hemlock high in terms of height. So I'm just wondering if that gets discussed, or the monitoring and patrolling of that or gets discussed at all, because it just seems like there's more, and we're getting into the season where there's going to be more and more of those high profile campers, RVs, and Sprinter vans that are just basically using parking when they should be in the designated RV parking space. So that's my kind of gripe, just wondering if it's being talked about. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I know they get tickets, but I don't know how often they get tickets.
It's pretty active. Greg, I think you bring up a good point. And I think we all had an idea of what an RV is. And the spaces like that are down by the treatment plant and the ones that are out here in front of City Hall, those decisions were made around that particular type of vehicle. And we do have a different type of vehicle now, as you said, and it may or may not qualify legally. Like you said, it's a Class C vehicle. So that's probably something we need to look at is in terms of, can they be treated differently, and are they treated differently now?
Yeah, and I think
should they be treated differently?
This is definitely a topic for the TSP, process. But I just wanted to bring it up because Nancy handed me the floor for a second. So thank you, Bruce.
Sure.
All right. Okay, well, we are past our time, which is fairly unusual. Usually we get out right on time. As far as Dale's question about post-pandemic and what is the city getting any feedback? I don't know. I know I was at a restaurant yesterday and it was packed and there was a waiting line, and that was Sunday at noon. So And some were wearing masks and some weren't wearing masks. And I think we see that here in City Hall. We've got some people here wearing masks and we have some people not wearing masks and some wearing masks sometimes and not sometimes. So I think we're all over the map on that. Who knows what's going to happen between
One
now?
thing I think is that the city and the chamber could get together, because I know the chamber hears a lot about what there is being asked here. And maybe they could give us a report on what they are hearing.
Yeah, especially the chamber. I think the chamber could definitely do that. Yeah, maybe Jim could do that for us. But I think maybe it's even a little too soon because who knows? We're hearing about a variant coming in from the East Coast.
Yep.
And, we may be just in our little time here with no masks until we go back to it. So who knows what's going to happen?
I was listening to, I think it was NPR, and they were saying that certain sewer systems are able to detect about a week ahead of time whether there's a variant in the community.
Yeah.
Do you know, Bruce, if we have any ability for that?
We are not doing it. The city of Astoria is part of was part of at least a study group that was trying to determine the efficacy of using that particular technique. So there are the Astoria does have that data collected.
That would be interesting to know what they're finding. Yeah. Okay, well, I think I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Been a long one. Thank you all for participating. You had wonderful questions today, a whole variety of questions. I think we covered most of city business, at least the business that the council's dealing with.
For the moment.
For the moment, for this next meeting, maybe. So thank you for joining us. Please do it again next month. We will maybe even have some consideration about having another type of meeting like this, only at a different time of day or week or something. So stay tuned for that and have a good spring break. Welcome to spring in Cannon Beach. And we'll see you again next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.